Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, you beautiful souls. Hi, you have stepped into Lilith's Lips. Welcome to this soft, sacred space where stories become spells and shadows learn to dance in the light. My name is Leo. Hi. Here I hold room for storytelling, for reflections that untangle the heart and, the kind of healing that moves slow but lasts. This isn't a place for noise or chase. I will never DM you. I will never reach out to you first. If you feel called to walk deeper with me, to join the soft circle, to book a sacred voice session, to replay these whispers, right? You'll find every doorway in my link in my bio. So just breathe. Bring all of you here, and you don't have to perform. This is your soft pause. In a world where we have forgotten to listen, just hear when softness roars. It is Saturday, Saturn Day, the day we choose devotion, the day we slow down, we get gentle boundaries in place, and we build soft structures for what matters the most. And in saying that, I put my hands up in confession. I realized something today, or shall I say from yesterday. Something I didn't realize before until I spoke out my scene to you guys, till I replayed. See, in that scene that I was speaking about yesterday, in that night, in that moment of that dance, what I had articulated in the dance of love, the damsel, the knight, the villain, it wasn't as black and white as that. It became a threshold. How so, Leo? You see, that one moment where I had almost shrank, right? But instead I stayed. Kevin gave me the power to stand up and stay, right? Stand firm. Something shifted. Something shifted inside me, and it wasn't dramatic and it wasn't sudden. It was steady, like new roots digging into the soil itself, solid ground. And I had to think to myself, like good old Saturn, what am I devoting myself to now? And so I wrote another scene, a scene that came after that moment with this old unwanted face and Kevin's presence of assurity. I wrote another moment. But before I read my version of it, the way I saw it, I thought, let me write Kevin's perspective first. Let's hear from him what he saw and what he felt. Let's go from there, shall we? He says, you see, that night, she didn't need me to save her. I saw the fight in her eyes long before she realized it herself. She'd been saving herself for years. I could see it in the way she stood, even when she flinched. She wasn't tired. She wasn't weak. See, there's a difference. Or shall I say, let me correct myself. She wasn't weak. She was tired. There's a difference. I didn't step in that night to rescue her. I stepped in to give her what she needed. Something she never been given before. Room to grow without someone trying to control the outcome. I wanted her to know what it feels like to be backed up. To know someone wouldn't let her stand alone when the ground was shaking. But even then I knew. She just needed a space where her strength wouldn't cost her everything. That's why I promised myself after tonight, unless she wanted me to, I wouldn't step in. I realized my job wasn't to fight for her. It was to stand beside her while she found the parts of herself that had been buried under all that weight. She wasn't a damsel. She never was. She was a blade, a diamond, something that came through the fire and was still standing, still shining. The more I saw, the more I realized she really was a precious jewel. It was crazy to me how people looked at this uncut crystal and thought it was an ordinary stone. But I saw that shine underneath before it even met the light. So I'll give her the thing that makes diamonds shine: patience, support, consistency. Because I already know that the one of the proudest moments of my life will be the day when she turns to face her own shadows. And I just get to stand and watch her win. I get to watch her face someone on her own and her voice doesn't shake. And it won't be for me. It won't be for anyone else. It will be just for her. And I know that will be the day I fall in love with her all over again. Because it's easy to love someone for how they need you. But I'm going to love her for how she doesn't. That's the love for me. Not saving her, just standing there, unshakable, and saying with my presence alone, I see you, I've got you. Now go and do what only you can do. Writing Kevin's perspective first before I wrote my scene again, it honestly brought me to tears. To think someone who had just met, who had just been enthralled and magnetized by this new me, this Elo, right? Had already spoken so much life and prosperity, saying, hey, she's going to be, she already has been. And that was the reason his love was there to begin with. It brought me to tears. It made me have to reevaluate and understand what love truly means. And not just in self-love, but in love we give others. And that's not just on a cliche level, on a true soul deepen level. What does it mean for someone? We'll get there. Let's write the scene again, shall we? See, the music, the songs, they've ended. This is the stage. But Kevin doesn't rush me. He just walks with me out into the silence, allowing the cool night air to touch my heated skin. We stood there for a while, just looking out, breathing in deeply. He didn't even try to fill the silence. He just let me stand in my own thoughts, my own feelings and understanding. His hands just barely brushing against mine. A silent reminder that he was there with me. Finally, I just let the words simply fall out. I used to think that if I had someone, just one person in my corner, one person to protect me, I'd be okay. I'd be safe, I would be free, I would be happy. See, I was speaking my truth now. But now I see that freedom, it must come from me. Kevin only nodded. His eyes were on me like I was the answer to a question he'd been holding his whole life. You see, in that moment, it became a thread of montage as weeks passed. I could see myself learning myself again, training this new version of myself in my own way, for my own reasons. I danced more freely. I found new disciplines. I created boundaries in my own jurisdiction, my own new comfort. I started speaking without flinching, and Kevin, well, he was there, not as the savior, but as this mirror. He was the one that would spar with me, push me to sharpen my voice, build my space, my power. He would challenge me to be bigger. He would say things like, say it again, but this time, say it with your chest. He would cheer the loudest when I held my ground, when I stepped into rooms and I commanded my space, especially in the ones I used to shrink it. See, now I know right now I'm growing into something new, yet old at the same time. Not just emotionally, physically, but spiritually too. And I'm here for it all. I'm here for it all because one thing I know right now, one thing I've understood is when I glance over my shoulder and I see Kevin smiling, proud, I know the love that I have for him isn't because I need him, but because I finally understood that I never needed him. This was a want. The want for someone to see me and appreciate me in my fullness. And he does that. He witnesses and he allies with the life that I'm building for myself. You know, the crazy thing is that I'm realizing this now. And when I'm realizing it, somewhere in the corner, as always, it's that soft little orb reminding me, encouraging me that this moment, is where my rebirth begins. Anyway, back to the scene, right? Kevin only nods. His eyes are on me like I was the answer to a question he'd held his whole life. And he smiles because he could see it. The warrior that had always been there beneath the softness. You know, I say quietly as I turn to him, realistically, all my life I've been surviving on my own. What I've needed is the space to grow strong enough to just never be caged again. Kevin's hand slides from my waist into my hands. He laces his fingers with my own, not to lead, not to claim, but to simply be beside me. Eyes full of admiration, he says, then that's what I'm here for. Not to fight your battles, but to make sure you never have to fight alone. See, in that moment, I could see the future. Me, a diamond that had been pressured and sharpened by everything that was meant to destroy me. And him, a constant light at my back, holding space, giving me room to shine as my truest self. See, that's the thing I realized after the first scene where this bully came up and he gave me the strength to stand. It was in the end, the core energy in this new narrative that has become illuminated to me is that Kevin wasn't just this lover in my head. He wasn't this Prince Charming that I had just been crying for, come and save me, then my life will be different, my life will be new, right? No, he was also this ally, this mirror, this amplifier I needed to become the hero for myself. To be that savior in my completeness. It isn't about waiting for someone to come and save me anymore. It never was about someone coming to save me. That was my fear, my desperation speaking, right? What I learned in loving myself, as people say, right, is understanding truly what having someone see you fighting, see what you're actually made of, right? And never trying to dim that light. They're never trying to overpower it or change it into something different. They just hold it for what it is. And how for myself, I'm becoming unshakable in that with the freedom that I forged for myself. It wasn't given. And it wasn't stolen either. It is purely me. And what it does is it turns that love of both self and for others into a true dream, into a relationship where it's a union of equals, not of rescuer and rescuee, right? No more of this push and pull, because, well, we're no longer trying to fill only the empty spaces, being two giant holes together. And that all sounds so dreamy and honestly uncomplicated, right? But those empty spaces, they be illusions. See, I shrank not because I didn't know how to grow. I shrank because I was tired. And that was the only spaces I knew to fill. I didn't know any other place to occupy apart from the ones I was told were for me. And that's what today's reflection should stir within you. What is it that you have been incomplete in? And are you truly asking for that in return? A complete picture or a half? Because we love a romance. I love a romance. I always have. And to put myself as the main character and put all my hopes and dreams as the protagonist that loves me so, but then put all my fears as the villain who tries to break me down, it gives me a new light. And one of those lights is I don't want to be Cinderella, who just happens to find Prince Charming. I want to be a Mulan. Who remembers Mulan? Right? She took her father's armor and she went off to battle. She came back a warrior princess, a warrior queen. Why? Because she stood with those men on that ground and she forged her own way through, right? Hi, what do I do for a living? I tell stories. I thrive in the now. It sounds so hippie when I say it like that. But I'm a creator. I also do readings, so that's a thing too. But yeah, like I was saying, Mulan. And I said, no, there's no shade to Cinderella or Snow White. Don't get it twisted. But that was the one thing I used to love about Mulan. Hi. There was one thing I loved even about The Little Mermaid, the fact that she found her own solution to get to be part of the world of the women and the men who walked with two legs, right? Now, as misguided as she was, she still found her way. And then Prince Eric, he was there on the other side. I'm good, thanks, and you? He was there to meet her on the other side and allow her to, finish off that dream. And that was one thing I truly found an embodiment in, where it's like, I am the main character, and this main character doesn't want her story to be told for her. She wants to make it. Oh, who remembers Beauty and the Beast? Belle. She literally sings about it, how, she reads these characters going on great adventures and how she wants to do that herself. And the minute her father was in danger, right, she didn't just run back to the village and went, oh, Gaston, like everyone else. I'm from the UK. What is your favorite storybook you have told? Ooh, that's a hard one. My favorite would have been Nation. Nation, if you've not read it, it's a really good book. It's more teen than children, but it's very much a rendition of the Lost Boys, right? Set in a more Afrocentric dystopia. Definitely a good book to read. Where was I? Yes, Belle, she ran in herself. She said, oh, do you know what? Take me instead of my dad. Let him go. I decide that for me, I can face you, beast, and you are not going to scare me. And of course, I'm sure she was scared out of her mind. She really was. But not once did she ever stop holding her ground. And it was the same when I wrote this scene with Kevin and me. After my big, bad, old version ex came back and told me how I should be this naive girl who always gets herself into situations she can't get herself out of. And that's not true. We learn, of course, we don't know everything in this world, but one thing my insecurities will never tell me again is that when I've made a mistake, that's who I am, and that's who I will always be. No. Yes, I will make mistakes, but no, my mistakes are not my full and total identity. I am a warrior. I am a blade just forged from my own experiences. And when I do call for a love, I call for a love who holds me in my totality. I call for relationships in my life. No, not yet. But I call for relationships in my life that allow me to shine in my fullest and allow me to accept them in their fullest too, because it's a give and take. Compromise is a word that is used very loosely. We make it a one-way stream when it's actually both ways. I want to love someone who knows themselves in a whole, who can show me their good, their bad, and ugly in comfortability. Hey, I am human, and this is what makes me me. Allow me to choose what I can understand and let me watch you evolve, because guess what? The me a year ago is not the me today, and it sure as hell won't be the me tomorrow. Oh, that's very sweet of you. Why? See, now you're making me blush. I'm sorry, I can be a bit goofy, but I'll let you know, sir. Where was I? Yes. In learning and in witnessing people grow in their own stories, I get to not only be the main character in mine, but a true, supportive, fully developed character in somebody else's. Right? One thing we love about theater, we love about movies is that, let's go back. I don't know who's recently watched Mufasa, right? And the reason why Mufasa in itself is just such a brilliant thing is even from the original Lion King, we understood from Scar to Mufasa to Simba himself, all of them were fully developed and understood characters. None of them were just afterthoughts or NPCs, as we put it, right? They just happened to be there. So when we saw Mufasa's full story, we went, do you know what? That's crazy. Now that I look back at it, I can see that evolution and it makes sense. I can see where he stumbled and he fallen and why that made him such a great king that we loved in Lion King. Right? And that's the union. That's the true union of love. When you're able to tell a story with full characters, not just someone who happened to just be meek and happened to just be there and just happened to happen, right? And it's the same for life. It's the same for us. We're all main characters in our own story. This life we live in is one big old storybook. And every day we choose a new scene, and every year is a new chapter. And it only ends, when we end, when we stop existing. From the minute we existed, we became a new story. And our evolution and our pages have been what has built us as these main characters in life, right? all the things we have won and all the things that we lost, the things that scare us now and the things that won't in the future, the things that made us bleed and cry at night. And now we can laugh back at and go, oh my God, how could I? Oh, the horrendous styles and phases we went through. I don't know about you, but I went through some gaudy phases. At one point, I went around dressed like the Mad Hatter. From Alice in Wonderland, top hat and everything. I was there for it. And it was a type of thing where I look back at it now and I can giggle and I laugh, but I used to get bullied so hard for it. Who did I think I was to pretend to be this character from another world, right? But that same girl who at 14 was laughed at for it was also worshipped and had, honestly, so many opportunities. I was flown out to quite a few places for that same creativity. I had all expense paid exhibitions in France, in Spain, right? But that same whimsical thinking I had that was told, what the hell? What the helly? So this is when I say, hey, this is rooted in someone new but old at the same time. These are the things I'm talking about. When we look at ourselves and we look back and we say, oh, I missed that version of myself. It was never gone. You never lost it. How could you? How could you lose something that was always you? What it got, just like this girl in my scene, just like Ella, it was buried. It was buried by the pressure of life. Life screaming no at you, when honestly, it was never really no. It was just, it doesn't fit here, find somewhere else. And that's hard sometimes because we want to always fit where we decide to fit, right? I mean, I do. I like to say hi. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Where was I? I'm sorry. I can be a bit goofy. I was saying, sometimes when we are under that pressure of no, we forget to look at where we're being denied in the first place. It may not actually be where we're meant to be. We're trying to fit a round peg into a square hole, and then we're saying that, this life ain't just, I've got to now shave myself into that shape. No, go find your space, and it's not always going to be where we think it's going to be. And I've had to grow to be comfortable with that. Comfortable with the fact that the rooms where I thought it would happen isn't always going to be the rooms where it will happen. Not because I'm incapable of, but because the big old narrator of my life, right? Because if you're a character, you can't be the narrator at the same time. What we call life has its own orchestrative ways behind it. Because while I am a main character, I'm still a side character. And if somebody else's story is clashing against mine, it can't work. I can't know someone who doesn't know me. Vice versa. I can also know someone who I never thought I would know. No. New words are escaping me. Either way, with all of my rambling, I will end with this. Thank you. I appreciate you. If today's reflection, today's story stirred something within you, let it keep echoing even after I've closed the space. I'm grateful for you showing up for yourself here, for showing up for me. And if you want to walk with me deeper, work with me even, be in the close circle or book a sacred voice session, or even just re-watch this live. You'll find all of those doorways in my bio. And with saying that, I guess the only thing left to say is bye.